Well, welcome everyone to today's career chat, and we are happy to welcome Josh Stauffer from Blue Flame Thinking as our guest today. So welcome, Josh. We're so glad to have you today. You've been such a great supporter of the Kent Intermediate School District's career readiness programming. So we have 30 minutes to kind of pick your brain about your industry, but also hear your career path to help students understand that it's a journey, that everything doesn't happen in a straight line. And we'll be encouraging them, like I said, to get some questions in the chat. But to start off, Josh, let's take you back as we get you started to talk back when you were a high school student. What were you thinking? Is this what you thought you'd end up being, a president of a company?
Never. Probably as far from it as humanly possible. I would say that my path in life has been very windy. I never thought I'd end up living in West Michigan when I grew up. I never thought I'd end up being a president or CEO of a company. I never thought I would use math in my day-to-day life or my profession until well after graduating college. And so all of those things have turned out to prove that as a high school student or even as a college student, I really had no great ability to predict where life was going to take me in the long run. Can I share the slide that I have?
Yeah,
Or
hit that share screen button. So where are you
yeah,
from originally, if you're not from West Michigan?
I was born in West Michigan,
Okay,
but
just never thought you'd stay here. Yeah.
I grew up thinking as an art student and as a fairly liberal person, and doing a lot of study abroads in college. I grew up thinking like, you know what, I'm going to move to London. I'll move to Paris. I'm going to move to a big city. I'm going to go to a metro area. I think that's a pretty common feeling that a lot of people in small towns have when they grow up, right? Like this yearning to go to something bigger, be attracted to something different, regardless of what it is. And so the fact that I ended up staying here is one shock. And prefer it here because we have an office in Chicago, so I could uproot myself and move locales pretty easily. So I've kind of talked through my past in other conversations, and I've created this chart because I think I'm an artist and I work better visually. So even though this is a straight line in terms of the way it's presented, you'll see that there's a lot of coincidences and things that happened here. And so, I mean, my early childhood stuff, even well before high school, is all very nerdy stuff. I was into video games, comic books. I mean, this was before these things were cool, right? Like decades before they were cool. Everything, it's cool now. And it's awesome to see like all the things that I really loved as a kid become massive media successes now that I can enjoy as an adult. But back then it was not cool. I was kind of an awkward, weird art kid all the way through school. I would have been labeled as probably being like the best drawer. Drawer is not really a word in my high school. And I took the logical path from high school and went to school for art. So I went to Grand Valley State University and eventually received a BFA in art and design with an emphasis in illustration. Along the way, I went and did like half my semester in art, felt like, ooh, this is actually work when it comes down to like learning how to do it as opposed to a hobby and a profession. And so I switched to psychology. I did that for about a year until I started to feel like, man, all these courses are the same thing. And so then I switched to philosophy. And philosophy led me to a lot of soul searching, which rounded me right back to art. And so I switched my major for the third time back to art, graduated with it, and attempted to make a living doing illustration and art. And for some people, that's a really great path. For me, my path, just without even intentionally doing it, took a turn to the side into programming and developing because many of my colleagues and even my instructors or other people in the field were wonderful artists, but they were starting to build websites for themselves and they didn't know how to build websites. And I was familiar with a program back then called Flash. And so I started building them websites and got really interested in this unique combination of art and code that could be combined together. And so, in 2005, I started doing those things, taught myself how to code, taught myself math again. And then just through happenstance, I said yes to a lot of opportunities. And at one point in time, I drew a handmade business card for a high school kid that was in a career orientation with me, who told me his uncle owned an marketing agency, and I handed it to him. And I got a call a couple months later from a very confused gentleman named Charlie, who gave me a break and gave me a job that I wasn't overly qualified for. But I said yes to that, and that changed my entire career path. I went from being an artist to being a software developer, a software engineer, almost overnight. And I did that for 2 years before the last recession hit. And then I freelanced for a while, and again said yes to a few contract to hire opportunities, ended up at an agency that did really pretty cutting edge sort of installation artwork, or like marketing in the space that people were doing things. And so I helped them build out the digital end of those components that they were doing. And I stayed there for quite a while, ended up being an agency called Agent X, and build out the team there. And then eventually actually just sort of through both attrition and through experience moved into a management role there, managing both the other art and design employees, the graphic designers, and the other developers, as well as doing development on my own. And then in 2013,
I think we lost you, Josh. I don't know if you can hear us. Looks like he froze up. While we're waiting for Josh to come back, you guys, why don't you put your high school and your what you're going to be as far as your grade level this fall into the chat, so we can get a sense of how old you are, and maybe your dream job if you have one already. Go ahead and put that in chat. I'm sure he'll be right back. Hi, Josh. That's okay.
all right, I'm back. This
You're
is the
back.
joys of working from home right now, right?
Absolutely. Flexibility is what I've learned about myself, that I'm becoming more flexible with this
Yep.
change in
Yeah,
life.
especially when every person in the world is on Netflix right now.
Exactly. I'm impressed that
So
they've been able to keep up the bandwidth. You have to give our
yeah.
company some credit on that one.
Yeah.
So
Um,
yeah, so you
yeah.
were sharing that you got up to kind of through attrition and stuff, we were kind of moved into management positions.
Yeah, I moved into a management position, and I was originally eventually hired by another owner of a marketing company who wanted to build a dev team. They hired me over. I took kind of a risk, and it was a wonderful risk. It made me realize how overworked I was at the last place. It made me realize what it was like to work at a place that truly appreciated the way that their people were positioned. And it set me up to build something, right? It's another opportunity that had risk attached to it. And so I took that risk. We built out a dev team, which went from accounting for 0% of the agency's revenue to now accounting for 80% of the agency's revenue. And then in 2017, after I was promoted a few times there, the previous owner decided it was time for him to retire. He was in his mid to late 60s and wanted to get out. And so I took a bunch of additional risk on and bought the agency from him. And so that's how I ended up where I am at this point. So twisty, weird. The one thing I would say about my path that is helpful to think through for the students at the age they are right now is that it's impossible to predict where you're going to end up. But saying yes creates lots of opportunities. Saying no never creates opportunities for people. So there's probably 3 or 4 times in my career where I could have taken a safer road and just said no or ignored an opportunity. And I'd still be where I was a decade ago instead of where I am now because of that. So
Yeah, that's certainly something I gleaned from that introduction, was that you continually you took the advantage of the new opportunities. You didn't know how to code. Coding was all kind of new, but it was something you're like, hey, I'm going to try this. And then it led to the next thing, led to the next
yeah,
thing. led to the next thing. Yeah, that's great. So when you look at your coding, when you think back to your high school self when you were a drawer, um,
Yeah.
does that still fit you though, as that creation piece of it for some of the young people that maybe are really focused on their art right now, and maybe help them
Yeah.
understand how some of it translates to the world, because there's a huge demand for code, obviously, coders.
Yeah, there is. As an artist, I don't know that I would identify as an artist anymore, even though I do spend a lot of time doing art for our clients. So, in a practical application sense, I still get my hands dirty doing things like storyboards for the videos we make for our clients. I still get my hands dirty doing quick sketches for like whiteboarding sessions or discovery sessions for our clients, because imagery is so powerful at helping people understand complex concepts, that there's a really wonderful marriage between artistic ability and the ability to communicate as between different human beings. So I still continuously do that. And I think the way that I identify has shifted more from an artist to a maker. And so there's a commonality at our place as a marketing agency where almost all of us identify as a maker of some kind in a multidisciplinary way. So some of us might be illustrators. Um, some of us may have come from a painting background. I actually got half of a Master of Fine Arts from Kendall for classical oil painting that I don't use very often anymore, but that is just like more skills that build on top of that before I figured out where I wanted to go in life. And I use it on a daily basis. And half of our developers have art degrees. And just sort of like, there's something about that. We have another developer who they have their degree in classical music, right? Between music and art and code, there is this very beautiful sort of combination that can happen there.
Well, I think you're creatives is the bottom line, right? You're
Yeah,
creative people.
yeah.
And so I'm going to let the students to be thinking, students, what you want to ask, but Josh, why don't you give them just a big picture of what your daily life is like as the president CEO, and kind of a little more meat of what marketing in this way is, because
Yeah.
I'm sure we all have different ideas of what a marketing company or
Yeah.
team is about.
I think very low, very high level, like what a marketing company does is we effectively engage with a group of people that we call our clients, right? They hire us to do a specific thing. And that thing is generally to create collateral and strategy and marketing pieces that help them sell their service or products to an end user, right? So every ad you see on TV, every app that you see get built and advertised to you, many of the tools and the products that you use come with instruction manuals, advertising, marketing things. There's an entire science behind the persuasion of convincing people that a product is right or wrong for them, and that's essentially our job. Now we work in a couple of industries that are incredibly technical and have a large amount of legal and compliance to them, and so we additionally help our clients understand what's possible, what's legal, what they should be doing in that space. We help them launch products. We help them launch campaigns. We help them target very specific demographics of people that they want to reach out to and talk to. And we help them craft the messaging that is going to resonate and learn from it as a marketing agency. Now, my day-to-day as a CEO is not nearly as much fun as my day-to-day as maker was, for different reasons. So in the past, where I spent a lot of time building, coding, and developing and sort of being more in the thick of things, now I'm a few steps up, and I might be heavily involved in new business. So talking with clients that are interested to us to really get them excited about and understand the things that we provide or sell, like making videos and websites and all those things, and what difference they can make in our clients' bottom line and what they're trying to achieve. But then I also spend a large amount of my time looking at financial information about the agency, making decisions, especially right now during COVID, hard financial decisions about what we're going to do, how we're going to do things, negotiating contracts, leases, making sure that proposals are buttoned up, lots of things like that. And there is a significant portion of my job that is really about networking and meeting new people and creating more opportunities where people can say yes or no to us.
So when they're in high school practicing some of those soft skills, they call it, the teamwork and the collaboration and all of those, definitely applicable in your world. But connecting with people, like say, and developing that client base and making sure customers are happy. It sounds like your psychology classes came into play. That was part of your toolbox you didn't even know you were filling at the time.
Yep. Yeah, that's a huge component of it. Our industry is so much about the connection that people have and understanding that from just the psychology and the persuasion of marketing, but also we have really complex relationships between our agency, our clients, and the account managers who sort of negotiate for us between them. And it's kind of like, and I grew up in a split house. It is a lot like being a stepchild, or a broken home where you've got parents that you're sort of negotiating with, and you get 80% of the same story from all parties, but there's always a 20% disconnect. And so being able to negotiate those waters and sort of work through them in a way where everyone feels like they win is a full-time job. So
Yeah, it sounds like it. Um, Oftentimes young people will tell me they like to understand how people got from here to there, which you did a great job sharing out earlier. When you're looking at hiring talent, are you looking for particular qualities, particular types of education? Help young people understand what some next steps might be for them, or what they would need to
yeah,
think about.
we because we're a marketing agency, and also my path in life kind of colors the way that I view traditional education in like people's past. I think we're a lot more open to paths that aren't linear, where people start one thing and they go to another thing. In fact, sometimes I think we're a little suspicious of like, oh, you when you were in high school, you thought you were going to be a marketer. We're like, nobody thinks they're going to be a marketer in high school. I've never met anybody that said that with a straight face. It's like something that you get introduced to. And so I think we look for diversity of experience in a lot of cases, because we're looking for people that tested things out and sort of understand who they are as a person, or are self-aware enough to know that they don't know who they are and that they're just testing things out, because we're looking for the right match between where that person is currently and where they want to go, on top of if they're the right person for the job and the right fit to add to our team's culture, not necessarily just to fit with the existing culture. And so we look for very specific things. I usually don't get involved in the hiring process until like step 2 or 3, when they've already sort of sussed out the technical aspects. Can you do the job? Do you have the hard skills to do the job, right? So for us, hard skills are table stakes. You either have them or you don't. You're either qualified for the job in the way that a robot would be qualified for the job, or you're not.
So
The
what are some
important thing to
examples?
us
Yeah,
are,
sorry to interrupt you.
yeah.
What would be some of those examples of that, of the hardcore
Um,
skill sets?
so if we're hiring for developers, it's going to be the skill set. What programming languages do you know? How long have you known them? How many projects have you made? Can we look at your code, right? We want to look through and make sure it's semantic. From a design perspective, we want to look at their portfolio of work. If I review that stuff with our creative director, Adam, it usually takes about 2 seconds for us to decide whether someone is a good designer or not. We can literally open their portfolio, look at it, and go, if they're a good designer, or go, nope, they don't have the skill set for it. The same holds true for almost any of the disciplines that we hire at the agency. The soft skills for us are way more important. How do they talk about themselves? How do they talk about their work? How do they talk about the way they work with other people? Can we see genuine interest in them around the job? I look and weigh passion really heavily when we look at people who are considering hiring, because it's not the normal to be super passionate about marketing, but we're a small enough company that we need everyone who works here to be passionate about marketing, right? So it might be like 1 in 10 people that we get the feeling from at the end of the day, like they really love this field and they want to work in it, and this is the right fit for them. And the other 9 is not to say like, oof, they're not going to make it in marketing. It just means they're not the right fit for us, right? Yeah.
That networking piece for your own personal career was so important along the way.
Yep.
So do you get a lot of some of your clients, or some of your staff from networking? Is that part of how you hire people? Help the young people understand the value of why networking is
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah, it's huge. You know, at the expense of making sure that, we've got 2 offices, we have personal networks in both offices. We also want to make sure we're being really mindful of hiring diversity, not just across demographics, but across like the way people think, where they were raised, their background, things like that. But a personal recommendation from someone in our network that we trust usually will move someone's chances to get hired right to the top of the pile, right? So when we're looking to hire somebody, we almost always tap our own personal networks that we trust first. Like, hey, who knows a great account manager, or who knows a good developer who needs a job? And those people have opportunities that other people who don't know anyone in our networks don't, because they've worked with people, they've networked, they've talked. Someone else is vouching for them at the end of the day. And if it's somebody you trust, it's the same way you ask your friends about products you're going to buy, or what movies are cool, or what music they like. You're more likely to listen to them than you are just some random person off the street, or someone who sends you an email and is like, hey, listen to this song, it's great.
Yeah, I
But
appreciate you
we
sharing that.
also, yeah, we also, it's out in the wind and people can apply for all of our jobs. The thing about applying for a job without having a connection to a personal network is the way that you present yourself when applying for a job is super critical. Like, unfortunately, just based on like a number of biases, people, if they don't know you, they're more likely to throw your resume in the trash because you used the wrong version of a conjunction, or like any sort of spelling error. It's just like, nope. And that has nothing as a reflection of work history or anything else. It's just important to realize that if you're applying for things and you don't have that connection, you need to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is buttoned up, it's up to date, like there's no spelling errors, your resume is updated, you don't have an email address that you got when you were in high school that has something you thought was cool, but also like gets flagged by somebody as like, nah, they're not very mature, like they're not ready for an adult job kind of thing. And all of those things come into play. So
Absolutely. That's just really good practical advice for young people
yeah.
to really start presenting themselves professionally. Do you guys offer internships or job shadows or other opportunities for students to start to kind of check out what Blue Flame's about, or your industry?
Yeah, we do. I mean, our internships generally start at the college level. And my advice to everyone in college is to get an internship, get 4 internships. I mean, unfortunately and fortunately, most colleges now require an internship. Where in the past, we used to view people who applied for a job, if they had gone out of their way to get a few internships without being required to, that was like, that's a good signal that they're serious about things, that they probably should be moved up in the pile. Now everyone has to get an internship, so it's less of a signal, but getting 2 internships more than you were supposed to now becomes a good signal. Um, we do those internships. We partner with lots of colleges. That's generally how those internships happen for us. So design colleges, Grand Valley, Kendall, from the marketing end too, they reach out to us. We reach out to them with internship opportunities. Um, we we are selective with who we allow to be an intern just based on what we do normally, because we do paid internships, right? So there is an element of we usually take senior people, like they're either in their junior or senior year of college, they're paid internship, but they're only available if we have the workload to justify payment, because we don't like to follow the model where we just create lots of internships and we don't pay people and take advantage of them. Like, if they're qualified enough to have an internship and we're going to put them on client work, they deserve to be paid. So that's sort of the model we take. If we don't have one of those available, we do job shadows all day long. Anybody who has the forethought to reach out, make those connections, and ask, we've never said no to anybody. In fact, I had through the Kent ISD, like 5 years ago, I had a wonderful job shadow student reach out. They were just in like their sophomore year of high school, and they said, "Hey, I just want to check things out. Can I come in and job shadow you for 2 hours on Thursdays or whatever?" Yep, awesome. Come on in. Let's do it. I mean, it's a little harder now that we're remote. Like, I don't know how that would work out, but the same thing applies. Anybody, especially as a sophomore in high school, anyone who's got the forethought and the drive to reach out to job shadow, yes, we love to have people come in and see what we're about. So
That's very generous, and we certainly appreciate that support for young people. We only have about 4 minutes left, so I want to respect your time. So the students haven't put any questions in the chat. So I guess I'm wondering, um, just to help young people learn, you have to make mistakes, but fall forward kind of thing. And just, is there anything that you look back on your experiences and think, man, that was a mistake, or that was a mistake, but it ended up being a really good thing? Any other kind of lessons learned along the way, Josh, that come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think in marketing specifically, but probably in lots of other industries, there is a period of your career where you effectively realize like you're kind of cutting your teeth on getting into the space, right? So you don't know enough about what to expect to know whether the situation you're in is the situation that everyone else experiences when they're in this, or if it's unique to you. And if it's unique, is it better or worse? There was a period of when I first got into software development. The first company I worked at was an amazing company. They treated their employees great. Work hours were acceptable. As I moved into my early 30s and took a job after the last recession, I ended up at a company where we routinely worked 80 hours a week, right? And at the age I was at and the point of my career I was at, I never thought anything of it until someone else offered me another opportunity, right? It's kind of like you don't know how hot the fire is until you get out of it, and you're like, "Whoa, that was really hot," and not helpful. And so one advice I would say is like take stock, ask other people, always be curious about what it's like somewhere else. Loyalty is important and it goes a long way and it says something, right? And I mean, another thing we look at is like if somebody's hopping jobs every year, then they're not really a good fit for us. We're trying to hire employees that want to stay for half a decade or more. And we treat our people well and we think that they like working for us, and our average retention is well above 5 years. And so we think the numbers prove out. But I had friends that took jobs at Leo Burnett in Chicago, and they would routinely work until 1 o'clock in the morning every day. It started at 9 a.m. and be working until 1 p.m. And those are choices they made for the industry they wanted to work at. And I think the cycles you're in life change too, where it's like, well, working 80 hours a week was great until I had my first kid. And then it causes you to reevaluate things. And you're like, well, one, I'm getting paid less than I could get paid over there for half the amount of time. And two, this is not healthy. But I don't know that I would trade that, because I think you need those experiences to understand, like, if all you've ever had are wonderful bosses, then you probably think your boss sucks. And you don't realize how well you have it. Like, you need a couple of really bad bosses to understand what it's like when you land at a place that has somebody who's great to their people. So
I think you probably having some not so great experiences helps shape the kind of boss you are, I would think. It's part of your toolbox that you picked up along the way, like how you want to make sure the culture is at your company and how
yeah,
you want to make
I
sure
hope
your
so.
employees, yeah, I would think that would be a perk. Um, I'm going to share one screen here as we finish up. So Josh has been kind enough, you guys, to offer his email address. So if you have a follow-up question or something that maybe we didn't touch on today that is really applicable to your experience, maybe you like the marketing side of it, or maybe you want to be a CEO, however that might be for you. Um, this is your chance to follow up. He is now part of your network. And so if you
Mhm.
are a really driven young person, that will go a long way as you start to show him and demonstrate your passion, because that's important to him. So those 30 minutes go fast. I'd love to give you just a chance of word of wisdom as we finish up, Josh. What would you like these young people to know as they're exploring their potential options?
Yeah, I would say don't close doors. Say yes to lots of things. Try to figure out what you want to do in life, and don't feel like you lock yourself into a path just because you chose something. I changed my mind 3 times in college before I realized that I shouldn't have changed my mind the first time. Um, but I wouldn't change that. I think that's a necessary exploration. Um, and I would just say, take advantage of the network you build and lean on them, including me. You have my contact information now. If you didn't want to ask your questions here, ask them to me after this. If you have a question around any of the jobs that we have or the field that we have, also feel free to reach out. And if it's not me that's appropriate to answer it, I can connect you to somebody else that works for me, or another business owner, or another marketing company, or someone else. I'm always willing to do that for people who reach out. So
And young people, that's a beautiful offer. That's like gold. So I hope you take advantage of it. So thank you so much, Josh, for sharing your 30 minutes with us today. Young people, I hope you got some good information that will be helpful to you as you move along your career journey. And I do think, Josh, as you said, all those bumps along the way are part of the journey, and you learn something from every one of them. So to always look positively on those past experiences. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a really great day. And we have more career chats coming up in the next 2 weeks. So be sure to visit our schedule and see if anything else pops out to you that you might just want to explore. Josh, have a great day.
You as well. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody.